Good evening, children of class 6. Today I am going to do the chapter Meeting Cezanne with you. This story is about the innocence of a young boy, and his name is Yannick. I have already done it in the class with you, but the boys who missed it, I hope you will go through this video during your holidays and you will revise this chapter and you will understand the lesson. Now, flipping through his mother's book, a young boy named Yannick admires the beauty of the countryside of Provence as painted by the master painter Cezanne. Now, he is flipping through his mother's pages, the young boy, and what he sees a beautiful painting which is done by the master painter Cezanne. And what has he painted? A beautiful countryside. What is countryside? It is a open rural area. Countryside is the land and scenery of a rural area. Now he's really admiring it. He's seeing it with regard and respect, the painting. One summer, he gets the chance to go and spend time with his uncle's family who live there. Yannick soon begins to enjoy his stay. Now one summer he goes and stays with his uncle in the countryside and he really enjoys it over there, and soon he begins to enjoy his stay, occasionally helping his uncle run the village inn. His uncle, he's running the village inn over there, and Yannick, when he goes there in summer, he enjoys it and he also runs the village inn with his uncle. He helps him in small things over there. One day there's a bustle at the inn. Bustle means the people over there working in the inn, they are very noisy, they are very excited. Because why they are very excited? There's a bustle in the inn for a famous man, the inn's best customer, comes visiting. Who is this man and why is there such a fuss about his visit? Now Yannick is just wondering that why is it every time the people come and visit the inn, they have food over there, some people come to stay, but why is it that this person who's going to come, about him there's a great fuss over there? So this means that he's the best customer of the inn. And the people over there, working over there, they're very excited to welcome him and make him very comfortable. That evening, my cousin Amandine told me I had to do everything properly because their best customer was coming to dine with some friends. So Yannick is saying that his cousin Amandine told him, because he was also helping over there in the inn in small things. So the cousin told him that he had to really be very perfect and he had to see to it that he works very well, because she was saying that the best customer was coming to dine to have his meal with his friends. He lived in the chateau in the village, she said, which and was very famous. Now this is chateau means a large French country home or castle. She said that he was very famous, and when I asked what he was famous for, she did not reply. Now he said, what is he famous? He's a small boy, he's very inquisitive, he wants to know everything. So he says, what is he famous for? But she did not reply. Questions, always questions, she tutted. Go and fetch the logs. She tutted means that she was very angry and she made a sound of annoyance. Okay, expressing annoyance. As you know, the children, they are very inquisitive. So this small boy, Yannick, he's also quite inquisitive and he says, what is he famous for? So she says, don't keep asking questions always. Go and fetch logs of wood because they're going to light a fire in the fireplace for this person. Whoever he was, he looked like an ordinary man. Now when he came, so Yannick is saying whoever he was, but he looked like an ordinary man without much hair. But I felt very pleased when the famous man ate one of my cream brulees. After the man and his guests left, we began to clear the table. Now he was very happy that this famous man, he ate the cream brulees which were made by Yannick. He must have helped in making of this, and he says that he was Yannick was very happy that this famous man really loved this dish. I pulled the paper tablecloth off, scrunched it and threw it into the fire as usual. Usual means every day they must be doing this. They were cleaning the table. They used to clean the table, and the tablecloth over there, it was of paper. So he just scrunched it, squeezed it, and he threw it in the fire. Suddenly, Amandine went rushing past me. For some reason, she grabbed the tongs and tried to pull out the remnants of the burning paper. Tongs are the devices which are used to pick up hot things. And suddenly, Amandine, she just rushed to the fireplace with the tongs. She was trying to take out the remnants of the burning burning paper, tablecloth. But it was already too late. Then she turned to me. But it was too late means that the tablecloth, which was of paper, it had got burnt. And suddenly she turned, Amandine, she turned towards Yannick and she said, "You fool," she shouted, "you little fool." What? I said. Now he's not understanding because every day he used to clean the table. So the same thing he did that day also. And he threw the paper tablecloth over there in the fire. So Amandine is very angry and she calls him a fool. That man who just left does a drawing on the tablecloth as a tip for Papa if he likes his meal. You went and threw it in the fire. He's the most famous painter in the world, idiot. She was in tears now. She was very angry and she says he is one of the most famous painters in the world. And whenever he comes to visit the inn, if he likes the food, and as a thanks, as a note of thanks, he'll draw something on the paper and you've thrown it in that fire. But actually, it was not Yannick's fault because he did not know, he was not told before also that he should not be doing this. Everyone in the restaurant stopped eating and went silent. Then Uncle Bruno came striding towards us, unlike his jolly self. "What is it?" he asked Amandine. Uncle Bruno is Amandine's father and, of course, Yannick's uncle. So when he heard this noise and he heard that Amandine is shouting at Yannick, so he came towards them and he says, "What is it all about?" A jolly self means he was a very jolly person, but that just now he was very angry with his daughter because she was shouting at Yannick. "It was Yannick, Papa," she cried. "He threw it into the fire, the tablecloth, the drawing." So she says, "Yannick, I'm angry with Yannick because the drawing and the tablecloth he's thrown in the fire." "Did you tell him about it, Amandine?" Uncle Bruno asked. "Did Yannick know that he sketches something on the tablecloth and leaves behind it for us?" So that was a question which was, of course, it really made sense because Yannick did not know. He was not given instructions before that. So he says, "Did you tell him before that he should not throw it in the dustbin? Or did you tell him before?" So he asked this to his daughter. Amandine looked at me, her cheeks wet with tears. I thought she was going to lie, but she didn't. "No, Papa," she said, lowering her head. Now he thought Yannick maybe she's very scared of her dad and she's going to lie. But she did not lie and she said, "No, I did not tell him." Okay, so she said the truth. Then you shouldn't blame him. Then you shouldn't blame him, should you? For something that was your fault. So he says you can't blame him, okay? And you can't blame him for something that was your fault. That was Amanda's fault. That is what Amanda's dad is telling her. "Say sorry to Yannick now." She mumbled it but didn't raise her eyes. Uncle Bruno put his arm around me. "Never mind, Yannick," he said. He said he particularly liked his cream brulee. You made it, didn't you? So Uncle Bruno, that means he's a kind-hearted person. He's a reasonable person. He has scolded his daughter, and he then puts his arm around Yannick, and he says that painter who had come over there, he liked the dish made by you, the Swedish cream brulee. "Never mind, Yannick," he said. He said he particularly liked his cream brulee. You made it, didn't you? So the drawing was for you, really. Always look on the bright side. For a moment, you held a drawing that was made for you by the greatest painter in the world. That's something you'll never, never forget. So he says the cream brulee he liked, and the painter made a painting, and he's the most famous painter in the world. So you have to look at the brighter side of things. Uncle Bruno is saying this. That means he's a very positive man. So he says, for some time, or maybe for a moment only, you held the painting which was made for you by the most famous painter in the world. Later on, as I came out of the bathroom, I heard Amanda crying in her room. So now Yannick says, when I came out of the toilet, I just heard that Amanda, she was crying in her room. See, first, she had been scolded by her father and she was very angry with Yannick also. I hated to hear her cry, so I knocked on the door and went in. "I'm sorry," I said. "I didn't mean to upset you." She had stopped crying by now. Now he's a very sweet boy, very well mannered, and actually he had not done it on purpose. So he went to Amanda's room and he said, "I'm very sorry and I didn't mean to hurt you." "It wasn't your fault, Yannick," she said, still sniffing a bit. Sniffling a bit means when you're crying, the sound you make, okay. Sniffle means it is due to cold and crying, the sound you make from your nose. "It's just that I hate it when Papa's cross with me. He hardly ever is. When I've done something really bad, I shouldn't have blamed you. I'm sorry." So she says, "Okay, it's all right. It's not your fault also. But actually, I'm crying because father, he scolded me and I don't like it when he is very angry with me." Then she smiled at me. I lay awake all night, my mind racing. So Yannick is saying that all night I was awake and my mind was racing. I was thinking of something. He was thinking of something. Somehow I was going to make it all right again and make Amandine happy. Soon I had worked out exactly what and how to do it, even when even what I was going to say when the time came. So he kept on thinking. It happens, children, at times when you're very upset, you really want to sort out things. So it's the night time when you think about it. So he kept thinking, and he had made up his mind that what he's going to do the next morning. And then he had also chosen the words, that at the moment, what words he's going to speak. Next morning, I didn't go for my walk in the hills, but made my way down through the village towards the mansion. So he says that the next morning, I did not go for my walk. He usually must be going for a walk. So instead of that, he went down the hill and he went towards the mansion, towards the great mansion. I waited till there was no one about. I climbed the gates easily enough and then ran down through the trees. So he just ran down through the trees and he climbed the gate of the mansion and he went towards the house. There, surrounded by the vast and threatening forest on all sides, was the old man with very little hair who had come to the inn. So, what did he see? That over there, surrounded by the forest and sitting over there in the lawn, who was sitting over there? This man who had come to the inn just the night before for the meal. He was sitting alone on the steps in the sunshine and sketching. He was sitting on the steps of his mansion and he was sketching something. I approached as silently as I could, but somehow I must have disturbed him. He looked up, shading his eyes against the sun. Why shading his eyes? Because the sun was shining brightly. Hello, young man, he said. Now that I was close to him, I could see he was indeed very old, but his eyes were young, bright, and searching. So he saw this man and he could see that he was very old, but his eyes were full of enthusiasm. They were young, they were bright, they were searching eyes, very inquisitive, wanting to know many, many things. Are you Monsieur Cezanne, the famous painter? I asked. So this boy Yannick, he asked that, are you Cezanne, the famous painter? He seemed a little puzzled, so I went on. My mother says you are the greatest painter in the world. So this man was a bit puzzled, but then Yannick went on and he says, my mother says that you are the greatest painter in the world. He smiled and then laughed. I think your mother's probably right, he said. You clearly have a wise mother, but why did she let a young lad like you come wandering here on his own? So he says your mother is very wise, okay, and she has really said the right thing, but he says, I'm just wondering that why she has allowed such a young boy to come over here in the forest and come to my house. I explained why I'd come and what I wanted. He looked at me with furrowed brows and said, furrowed brows means wrinkled brows, which are showing confusion. So he looked at me with furrowed brows and said, I remember you now from last night. Of course, I'll draw another picture for Bruno. What would he like? No, better still, what would you like? So he says, okay. He understood. The boy explained to him why he had come. Yannick explained and he told him that he wanted him to sketch something for his uncle. So he says, okay, what will your uncle like? Then he rather said, what will you like? Okay, he asked this small boy. I like sailing boats, I said. Can you do boats? I'll try, he replied with a smile. It didn't take him long. He drew fast, never once looking up. But as he worked, he asked me about where I'd been sailing boats, about where I lived in Paris. He said he loved Paris and sailing boats too. So he says, why do you like sailing boats? So he says, I like it because I've seen them in Paris and I have seen them over there. The boy says. There, he said, tearing the sheet from his sketchbook and showing me. What do you think? Four sailing boats were racing over the sea and beyond a lighthouse, just as I'd seen them in Brittany. But I saw he signed it Picasso. Okay, he's sketched it and he just drew the boats. And what did he sign over there? Picasso. I thought your name was Cezanne, I said. He smiled up at me. How I wish it was, he said sadly. Then he added, off you go now. So that means, children, He is also he is of course Cezanne. Now Cezanne, he's saying you're Cezanne. Cezanne is a famous painter, but Picasso is a world famous painter, and he's a bigger painter than Cezanne. But now people who are very great, and they are very humble, also down to earth, so he's not showing off, and he is a greater painter than Cezanne. But because this boy is going on saying Cezanne, because he had heard about it from his mother, and this painter was Picasso. And you know Picasso, he is a Spanish sculptor and painter who was considered one of the greatest artists of the 20th century. So this small boy, he's so innocent, he's just trying to wonder that why he has signed Picasso. He only knew about Cezanne. So children, I hope you understood the story, you enjoyed it, and please go through this video and you will understand it thoroughly. Thank you children, have a nice day.